Micah's word. Yahweh's word came to Micah of Moresheth in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. Hear, you peoples, all of you. Listen, O earth, and all that is in therein. Let the Lord Yahweh be witness against you, the Lord from his holy temple. For behold, Yahweh comes out of his place, and will come down and tread on the high places of the earth. The mountains melt under him, and the valleys split apart like wax before the fire, like waters that are poured down a steep place. All this is for the disobedience of Jacob, and for the sins of the house of Israel. What is the disobedience of Jacob? Isn't it Samaria? And what are the high places of Judah? Aren't they Jerusalem? Therefore I will make Samaria like a rubble heap of the field, like places for planting vineyards, and I will pour down its stones into the valley, and I will uncover its foundations. All her idols will be beaten to pieces, all her temple gifts will be burned with fire, and I will destroy all her images. For of the hire of a prostitute she gathered them, and to the hire of a prostitute they shall return. For this I will lament and wail. I will go stripped and naked. I will howl like the jackals, and mourn like the ostriches. For her wounds are incurable. For it has come even to Judah. It reaches to the gate of my people, even to Jerusalem. Don't tell it in Gath. Don't weep at all. At Beth Orphra I have rolled myself in the dust. Pass on, inhabitants of Shaphir, in nakedness and shame. The inhabitant of Zaanah won't come out. The wailing of Beth Ezel will take from you its protection. For the inhabitant of Maroth waits anxiously for good, because evil has come down from Yahweh to the gate of Jerusalem. Harness the chariot to the swift steed, inhabitant of Lachish. She was the beginning of sin to the daughter of Zion. For the transgression of Israel were found in you. Therefore you will give a parting gift to Moresheth Gath. The houses of Achzib will be a deceitful thing to the kings of Israel. I will yet bring a conqueror to you, inhabitants of Mareshah. The glory of Israel will come to Adullam. Shave your heads and cut off your hair for the children of your delight. Enlarge your baldness like the vulture, for they have gone into captivity from you. Woe to those who devise iniquity and work evil in their beds. When the morning is light they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and seize them, and houses, then take them away. They oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Therefore Yahweh says, Behold, I am planning against these people a disaster from which you will not remove your necks, neither will you walk haughtily, for it is an evil time. In that day they will take up a parable against you, and lament with doleful lamentation, saying, We are utterly ruined. My people's possession is divided up. Indeed, he takes it from me and assigns our fields to traitors. Therefore, you will have no one who divides the land by lot in Yahweh's assembly. Don't prophesy, they prophesy. Don't prophesy about these things. Disgrace won't overtake us. Shall it be said, O house of Jacob, Is Yahweh's spirit angry? Are these his doings? Don't my words do good to him who walks blamelessly? But lately my people have risen up as an enemy. You strip the robe and clothing from those who pass by without a care, returning from battle. You drive the women of my people out from their pleasant homes. From their young children you take away my blessing forever. Arise and depart, for this is not your resting place, because of uncleanness that destroys, even with a grievous destruction. If a man walking in a spirit of falsehood lies, saying, I will prophesy to you of wine and of strong drink. He would be the prophet of his people. I will surely assemble all of you. Jacob, I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together as the sheep of Bozrah, as a flock in the middle of their pasture. They will swarm with people. He who breaks open the way goes up before them. They break through the gate and go out. Their king passes on before them, with Yahweh at their head. I said, "Please listen, you heads of Jacob and rulers of the house of Israel. Isn't it for you to know justice, you who hate the good and love the evil, who tear off their skin and their flesh from off their bones, who also eat the flesh of my people, and peel them, their skin from off them, and break their bones, and chop them in pieces, as for the pot, and as meat within the cauldron? Then they will cry to Yahweh, but he will not answer them. Yes, he will hide his face from them at that time. They peace, and whoever doesn't provide for their mouths, they prepare war against him. Therefore night is over you, with no vision, and it is dark to you, that you may not divine. And the sun will go down on the prophets, and the day will be black over them. The seers shall be disappointed, and the diviners confounded. Yes, they shall all cover their lips, for there is no answer from God. But as for me, I am full of power by Yahweh's Spirit, and of judgment and of might, to declare to Jacob his disobedience, and to Israel his sin. Please listen to this, you heads of the house of Jacob, and rulers of the house of Israel, who abhor justice, and pervert all equity, who build up Zion with blood, and Jerusalem with iniquity. Her leaders judge for bribes, and her priests teach for a price, and her prophets of it tell fortunes for money. Yet they lean on Yahweh and say, "Isn't Yahweh among us?" No disaster will come on us. Therefore Zion, for your sake, will be ploughed like a field, and Jerusalem will become heaps of rubble, and the mountain of the temple like the high places of a forest. But in the latter days it will happen that the mountain of Yahweh's temple will be established on the top of the mountains, and it will be exalted over the hills, and people will stream to it. Many nations will go and say, "Come, let's go up to the mountain of Yahweh, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk of his paths. For the law will go out of Zion, and Yahweh's word from Jerusalem, and he will judge between many peoples, and will decide concerning strong nations afar off. They will beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn war any more, but every man will sit under his vine and under his fig tree. No one will make them afraid, for the mouth of Yahweh of armies has spoken. Indeed, all the nations may walk in the name of their gods, but we will walk in the name of Yahweh our God forever and ever. In that day, says Yahweh, I will assemble that which is lame, and I will gather that which is driven away, and that which I have afflicted, and I will make that which was lame a remnant, and that which was cast far off a strong nation, and Yahweh will reign over them on Mount Zion from then on, even forever. You tower of the flock, the hill of the daughter of Zion, to you it will come. Yes, the former dominion will come, the kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem. Now why do you cry out aloud? Is there no king in you? Has your counselor perished, that pains have taken hold of you, as of a woman in travail? Be in pain, and labour to give birth, daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now you will go out of the city, and will dwell in the field, and will come even to Babylon. There you will be rescued. There Yahweh will redeem you from the hand of your enemies. How many nations have assembled against you that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye gloat over Zion? But they don't know the thoughts of Yahweh, neither do they understand his counsel. For he has gathered them like the sheaves to the threshing floor. Arise and thresh, daughter of Zion, for I will make your horn iron, and I will make your hooves bronze. You will beat in pieces many peoples. I will devote their gain to Yahweh, and their substance to the Lord of the whole earth. Now you shall gather yourselves in troops, daughters of troops. He has laid siege against us. They will strike the judge of Israel with a rod on the cheek. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, being small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come out to me, who is ruler in Israel, whose goings out are from old, from ancient times. Therefore he will abandon them until the time that she who is in labour gives birth. Then the rest of her brothers will return to the children of Israel. He shall stand and shall shepherd in the strength of Yahweh, in the majesty of the name of Yahweh his God. They will live, for then he will be great. To the ends of the earth. He will be our peace when Assyria invades our land, and when he marches through our fortress. Then he will raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 leaders of men. They will rule the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod in its gates. He will deliver us from the Assyrian when he invades our land, and when he marches within our border. The remnant of Jacob will be among many peoples, like the dew from Yahweh, like showers on the grass, that don't wait for man, nor wait for the sons of men. The remnant of Jacob will be among the nations, among many peoples, like a lion among the animals of the forest, like a young lion among the flocks of the sheep, who if he goes through, treads down and tears in pieces, and there is no one to deliver. Let your hand be lifted up above your adversaries, and let all of your enemies be cut off. It will happen in that day, says Yahweh, that I will cut off your horses from among you, and will destroy your chariots. I will cut off the cities of your land, and will tear down all your strongholds. I will destroy witchcraft from your hand. You shall have no soothsayers. I will cut off your engraved images and your pillars from among you, and you shall no more worship the work of your hands. I will uproot your Asherah poles from among you, and I will destroy your cities. I will execute vengeance in anger and wrath on the nations that don't listen. Listen now to what Yahweh says. Arise, plead your case before the mountains, and let the hills hear what you have to say. Hear, you mountains, Yahweh's indictment, and you enduring foundations of the earth. For Yahweh has a case against his people, and he will contend with Israel. My people, what have I done to you? How have I burdened you? Answer me. For I brought you up out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage. I sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. My people, remember now what Balak, king of Moab, devised, and what Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him from Shittim to Gilgal, that you know the righteous acts of Yahweh. How shall I come before Yahweh, and bow myself before the exalted God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will Yahweh be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my disobedience? Man, what is good? What does Yahweh require of you, but to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God? Yahweh's voice calls to the city, and wisdom fears your name. Listen to the rod, and he who appointed it. Are there yet treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and a short ephah that is accursed? Shall I tolerate dishonest scales, and a bag of deceitful weights? Her rich men are full of violence. Her inhabitants speak lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their speech. Therefore I have struck you with a grievous wound. I have made you desolate because of your sins. You shall eat, but not be satisfied. Your hunger will be within you. You will store up, but not save, and that which you save I will give up to the sword. You will sow, but won't reap. You will tread the olives, but won't anoint yourself with oil, and crush grapes, but won't drink wine. For the statutes of Omri are kept, and all the works of Ahab's house. You walk in their counsels, that I may make you a ruin, and your inhabitants a hissing. You will bear the reproach of my people. Misery is mine. Indeed, I am like one who gathers the summer fruits, as gleanings of the vineyard. There is no cluster of grapes to eat. My soul desires to eat the early fig. The godly man has perished out of the earth, and there is no one upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. Every man hunts his brother with a net. Their hands are on that which is evil, to do it diligently. The ruler and judge ask for a bribe. The powerful man dictates the evil desire of his soul. Thus they conspire together. The best of them is like a briar. The most upright is worse than a thorn hedge. The day of your watchmen, even of your visitation, has come. Now is the time of their confusion. Don't trust in a neighbor. Don't put confidence in a friend. With the woman lying in your embrace, be careful of the words of your mouth. For the son dishonors the father. The daughter rises up against the mother. The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. But as for me, I will look to Yahweh. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God hears me. Don't rejoice against me, my enemy. When I fall, I will arise. When I sit in darkness, Yahweh will be a light to me. I will bear the indignation of Yahweh, because I have sinned against him, until he pleads my case and executes judgment for me. He will bring me out to the light. I will see his righteousness. Then my enemy will see it, and shame will cover her who said to me, "Where is Yahweh your God?" My eyes will see her. Now she will be trodden down like the mire of the streets. A day to build your walls. In that day he will extend your boundary. In that day they will come to you from Assyria and the cities of Egypt, and from Egypt even to the river, and from sea to sea, and mountain to mountain. Yet the land will be desolate because of those who dwell therein. for the fruit of their doing. Shepherd your people with your staff, the flock of your heritage, who dwell by themselves in a forest. Let them feed in the middle of fertile pastureland, in Bashan and Gilead, as in the days of old, as in the days of your coming out of the land of Egypt. I will show them marvelous things. The nations will see and be ashamed of all their might. They will lay their hand on their mouth. Their ears will be deaf. They will lick the dust like a serpent, like crawling things of the earth. They will come trembling out of their dens. They will come with fear to Yahweh our God, and will be afraid because of you. Who is a God like you, who pardons iniquity and passes over the disobedience of the remnant of his heritage, but doesn't retain his anger forever, because he delights in loving kindness? He will again have compassion on us. He will tread our iniquities underfoot. You will cast all their sin into the depths of the sea. You will give truth to Jacob and mercy to Abraham, as you have sworn to our fathers from the days of old. Now in the 3rd year of Hosea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, the daughter of Zechariah. He did that which was right in Yahweh's eyes, according to all that his father David had done. He removed the high places, broke the pillars, and cut down the Asherah. He also broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made, because in those days the children of Israel burned incense to it, and he called it Nehushtan. He trusted in Yahweh, the God of Israel, so that after him there was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, nor among them that were before him. For he joined with Yahweh. He didn't depart from following him, but kept his commandments, which Yahweh commanded Moses. Yahweh was with him. Wherever he went, he prospered. He rebelled against the king of Assyria, and didn't serve him. He struck the Philistines to Gaza and its borders, from the tower of the watchman to the fortified city. Hezekiah began to reign when he was 25 years old, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abijah, the daughter of Zechariah. He did that which was right in Yahweh's eyes, according to all that David his father had done. In the 1st year of his reign, in the 1st month, he opened the doors of Yahweh's house and repaired them. He brought in the priests and the Levites, and gathered them together into the wide place on the east, and said to them, Listen to me, you Levites. Now sanctify yourselves, and sanctify the house of Yahweh, the God of your fathers, and carry the filthiness out of the holy place. For our fathers were unfaithful, and have done that which was evil in Yahweh our God's sight, and have forsaken him, and have turned away their faces from the habitation of Yahweh, and have turned their backs. Also they have shut up the doors of the porch, and put out the lamps, and have not burned incense, nor offered burnt offerings in the holy place to the God of Israel. Therefore Yahweh's wrath was on Judah and Jerusalem, and he has delivered them to be tossed back and forth, to be an astonishment and a hissing, as you see with your eyes. For behold, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons and daughters and wives are in captivity for this. Now it is in my heart to make a covenant with Yahweh, the God of Israel, that his fierce anger may turn away from us. My sons, don't be negligent now, for Yahweh has chosen you to stand before him, to minister to him, so that you should be his ministers and burn incense. Then the Levites arose, Mahath the son of Amasai, and Joel the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites, and of the sons of Merari, Kish the son of Abdi, and Azariah the son of Jahalel, and of the Gershonites, Joah the son of Zimmah, and Eden the son of Joah, and of the sons of Elipha, Simri, and Juel, and of the sons of Asaph, Zechariah and Mattaniah, and of the sons of Heman, Jehuah and Shemiah, of the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah and Aziel. They gathered their brothers, sanctified themselves, and went in, according to the commandment of the king by Yahweh's words, to cleanse Yahweh's house. The priests went in to the inner part of Yahweh's house to clean it, and brought out all the uncleanness that they found in Yahweh's temple to the court of Yahweh's house. And Levites took it from there to carry it to the brook Kidron. Now they began on the first day of the first month to sanctify, and on the 8th day of the 8th month they came to Yahweh's porch. They sanctified Yahweh's house in 8 days, and on the 16th day of the first month they finished. Then they went in to Hezekiah the king within the palace, and said, "We have cleansed all Yahweh's house, including the altar of burnt offering, with all its vessels, and the table of showbreads with all its vessels. Moreover, we have prepared and sanctified all the vessels which King Ahaz threw away in his reign when he was unfaithful. Behold, they are before Yahweh's altar." Then Hezekiah the king arose early, gathered the princes of the city, and went up to Yahweh's house. They brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 lambs, and 7 male goats for a sin offering for the kingdom, for the sanctuary, and for Judah. He commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer for them on Yahweh's altar. So they killed the bulls, and the priests received the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. They killed the rams and sprinkled the blood on the altar. They also killed the lambs and sprinkled the blood on the altar. They brought near the male goats for the sin offering before the king and the assembly, and they laid their hands on them. Then the priests killed them, and they made a sin offering with their blood on the altar to make atonement for all Israel. For the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offering should be made for all Israel. He set the Levites in Yahweh's house with cymbals, with stringed instruments, and with harps, according to the commandment of David, of Gad the king's seer, and Nathan the prophet, for the commandment was from Yahweh by his prophets. The Levites stood with David's instruments, and the priests with the trumpets. Hezekiah commanded them to burn. Hezekiah commanded them to offer the burnt offerings on the altar. When the burnt offerings began, Yahweh's song also began. Along with the trumpets and the instruments of David, king of Israel. All the assembly worshipped, the singers sang, and the trumpeters sounded. All this continued until the burnt offering was finished. When they had finished offering, the king and all who were present with him bowed themselves and worshipped. Moreover, Hezekiah the king and the princes commanded that the Levites should sing praise to Yahweh with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. They sang praises with gladness, and they bowed their heads and worshipped. Then Hezekiah answered, "Now you have consecrated yourselves to Yahweh. Come near and bring sacrifices and thank offerings into Yahweh's house." The assembly brought in thanks offerings. The assembly brought in sacrifices and thank offerings, and as many were of a willing heart brought burnt offerings. The number of the burnt offerings which the assembly brought was 70 bulls, 100 rams, and 200 lambs. All these were for a burnt offering to Yahweh. The consecrated things were 600 head of cattle and 3,000 sheep, but the priests were too few, so that they could not skin all the burnt offerings. Therefore the brothers, the Levites, helped them until the work was ended, and until the priests had sanctified themselves. for the Levites were more upright in heart to sanctify themselves than the priests. Also the burnt offerings were in abundance, with the fat of the peace offerings, and with the drink offerings for every burnt offering. So the service of Yahweh's house was set in order. Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced because of that which God had prepared for the people, for the thing was done suddenly. Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to Yahweh's house at Jerusalem to keep the Passover to Yahweh, the God of Israel. For the king had taken counsel with his princes and all the assembly in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the 2nd month. For they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves in sufficient number, and the people had not gathered themselves to Jerusalem. The thing was right in the eyes of the king and of all the assembly. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover to Yahweh, the God of Israel, at Jerusalem, for they had not kept it in great numbers in the way it is written. So the courier went with the letter from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, You children of Israel, turn again to Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, that he may return to the remnant of you that have escaped out of his hand, out of the hand of the king of Assyria. Don't be like your fathers and like your brothers, who trespassed against Yahweh, the God of their fathers, so that he gave them up to desolation, as you see. Now don't be stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourselves to Yahweh, and enter into his sanctuary, which he has sanctified forever, and serve Yahweh your God, that his fierce anger may turn away from you. For if you turn again to Yahweh, your brothers and your children will find compassion with those who led them captive, and will come again into this land, because Yahweh your God is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you if you return to him. So the couriers passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, even to Zebulun. But people ridiculed them and mocked them. Nevertheless, some men of Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. Also the hand of God came on Judah, and gave them one heart to do the commandment of the king and of the princes by Yahweh's word. Many people assembled at Jerusalem to keep the feast of unleavened bread in the 2nd month, a very great assembly. They arose and took away the altars that were in Jerusalem, and they took away all the altars for incense and threw them into the brook of Kidron. Then they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the 2nd month. The priests and the Levites were ashamed, and sanctified themselves, and brought burnt offering into Yahweh's house. They stood in their place, after their orders, according to the law of Moses, the man of God. The priests sprinkled the blood which they received of the hand of the Levites, for there were many in the assembly who had not sanctified themselves. Therefore the Levites were in charge of killing the Passovers for everyone who was not clean, to sanctify them to Yahweh. For a multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, yet they ate the Passover, other than the way it was written. For Hezekiah had prayed for them, saying, May the good Yahweh pardon everyone who sets his heart to seek God, Yahweh, the God of his fathers, even if they aren't clean, according to the purification of the sanctuary. Yahweh listened to Hezekiah and healed the people. The children of Israel who were present at Jerusalem kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with great gladness. The Levites and the priests praised Yahweh day by day, singing with loud instruments to Yahweh. Hezekiah spoke encouragingly to all the Levites who had good understanding in the service of Yahweh. So they ate throughout the feast for the 7 days, offering sacrifices of peace offerings and making confession to Yahweh, the God of their fathers. The whole assembly took counsel to keep another 7 days, and they kept another 7 days with gladness. For Hezekiah king of Judah gave to the assembly for offerings 1,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep, And the princes gave to the assembly 1,000 bulls and 10,000 sheep, and a great number of priests sanctified themselves. All the assembly of Judah, with the priests and the Levites, and all the assembly who came out of Israel, and the foreigners who came out of the land of Israel, and who lived in Judah, rejoiced. So there was great joy in Jerusalem, for since the time of Solomon the son of David, king of Israel, there was nothing like this in Jerusalem. Then the Levitical priests arose and blessed the people. Their voice was heard, and their prayer came up to his holy habitation, even to heaven. Now when all this was finished, all Israel who were present went out to the cities of Judah, and broke the pillars in pieces, cut down the Asherah poles, and broke down the high places and the altars out of Judah and Benjamin, also in Ephraim and Manasseh, until they had destroyed them all. Then all the children of Israel returned, every man to his possession, into their own cities. Hezekiah appointed the divisions of the priests and the Levites after their divisions, every man according to his service, both the priests and the Levites, for burnt offerings and for peace offerings, to minister, to give thanks, and to praise in the gates of Yahweh's camp. He also appointed the king's portion of his possession for the burnt offerings, for the morning and for the evening, burnt offerings, and the burnt offerings for the Sabbaths, for the new moons, and for the set feasts, as it is written in Yahweh's law. Moreover, he commanded that the people who lived in Jerusalem should give the portion of the priests and the Levites, that they might give themselves to Yahweh's law. As soon as the commandment went out, the children of Israel gave in abundance the first fruits of grain, new wine, oil, honey, and all of the increase of the field, and they brought in the tithe of all things abundantly. The children of Israel and Judah, who lived in the cities of Judah, also brought in the tithe of cattle and sheep, and the tithe of dedicated things which were consecrated to Yahweh their God, and laid them in heaps. In the 3rd month they began to lay the foundation of the heaps, and finished them in the 7th month. When Hezekiah and the princes came and saw the heaps, they blessed Yahweh and his people Israel. Then Hezekiah questioned the priests and the Levites about the heaps. Azariah, the chief priest of the house of Zadok, answered him and said, "Since people began to bring the offerings to Yahweh's house, we have eaten and have had enough, and have plenty left over. For Yahweh has blessed his people, and that which is left in this is in this great store." Then Hezekiah commanded them to prepare rooms in Yahweh's house, and they prepared them. They brought in the offerings, the tithes, and the dedicated things faithfully. Conaniah the Levite was ruler over them, and Shimei his brother was second. Jehiel, Azaziah, Nahath, Asahel, Jeremoth, Zosabad, Eliel, Ishmachiach, of God's house. Kor the son of Imnah, the Levite, the gatekeeper of the east gate, was under the freewill offering of God, to tribute Yahweh's offerings and the most holy things. Under him were Eden, Miniam, Jeshua, Shimei, Amariah, and Shechaniah, in the cities of the priests, in the office of trust. From 3 years up and old and upwards, even everyone who entered into Yahweh's house, as the duty of every day required, for their service in their offices according to their divisions, and those who were listed by genealogies of the priests, by their fathers' houses, and the Levites from 20 years old and upward, in their offices by their divisions, and those who were listed by genealogy of all their little ones, their wives, their sons, and their daughters, through all the congregation. For in their office of trust they sanctified themselves in holiness. Also for the sons of Aaron the priest, who were in the fields of the pasture lands of their cities. In every city there were men who were mentioned by name, to give portions to all the males among the priests, and to all who were listed by genealogy among the Levites. Hezekiah did so throughout all Judah, and he did that which was good, right, and faithful before Yahweh his God. In every work that he began in the service of God's house, in the law and in the commandments, to seek his God, he did it with all his heart, and prospered. A song, a psalm by the sons of Korah. Great is Yahweh, and greatly to be praised, in the city of our God, in his holy mountain. Beautiful in elevation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion on the north sides, the city of the great King. God has shown himself in her citadels as a refuge. For behold, the kings assembled themselves. They passed by together. They saw it, and then they were amazed. They were dismayed. They hurried there. Trembling took hold of them there. Pain, as of a woman in travail. With the east wind you break the ships of Tarshish. As we have heard, so we have seen. In the city of Yahweh of armies, in the city of our God, God will establish it forever. We have thought about your loving kindness, God, in the middle of your temple. As is your name, God, so is your praise to the ends of the earth. Your right hand is full of righteousness. Let Mount Zion be glad. Let the daughters of Judah rejoice because of your judgments. Walk about Zion and go around her. Number its towers. Notice her bulwarks. Consider her palaces, that you may tell to the next generation. For this God is our God, forever and ever. He will be our guide, even to death. Yahweh's word that came to Hosea, the son of Beeri, in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. When Yahweh spoke at first by Hosea, Yahweh said to Hosea, Go, take for yourself a wife of prostitution and children of unfaithfulness, for the land commits great adultery, forsaking Yahweh. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. Yahweh said to him, Call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while I will avenge the blood of Jezreel on the house of Jehu, and will cause the kingdom of the house of Israel to cease. It will happen in that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. She conceived again and bore a daughter. Then he said to him, Call her name Lo Rehumah, for I will no longer have mercy on the house of Israel, that I should in any way pardon them. But I will have mercy on the house of Judah, and will save them by Yahweh their God, and will not save them by bow, sword, battle, horses, or horsemen. Now, when she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, she conceived and bore a son. He said, Call his name Lo Ami, for you are not my people, and I will not be yours. Yet the number of the children of Israel will be as the sands of the sea, which can't be measured or counted. And it will come to pass that in the place where it is said to them, You are not my people. They will be called sons of the living God. The children of Judah and the children of Israel will be gathered together, and they will appoint themselves one head, and will go up from the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. Say to your brothers, my people, and to your sisters, my loved ones, contend with your mother. Contend, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. And let her put away her prostitution from her face, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and make her as bare as in the day she was born, and make her like a wilderness, and set her like dry land, and kill her with thirst. Indeed, on her children I will have no mercy, for they are children of unfaithfulness, for their mother has played the prostitute. She who conceived them has done shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers, who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. Therefore, behold, I will hedge up your way with thorns, and I will build a wall against her, that she can't find her way. She will follow after her lovers, but she won't overtake them, and she will seek them, but she won't find them. Then she will say, I will go and return to my first husband, for then it was better with me than now. For she didn't know that I gave her the grain, the new wine, and the oil, and multiplied to her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. Therefore I will take back my grain in its time, and my new wine in its season. And I will pluck away my wool and my flax, which should have covered her nakedness. Now I will uncover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and no one will deliver her out of my hand. I will also cause all her celebrations to cease, her feasts, her new moons, her Sabbaths, and all her solemn assemblies. I will lay waste her vines and her fig trees, about which she has said, These are my wages that my lovers have given me. And I will make them a forest, and the animals of the field shall eat them. I will visit her the days of the Baals, to which she burned incense, when she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and went after her lovers, and forgot me, says Yahweh. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, and bring her into the wilderness, and speak tenderly to her. I will give her vineyards from there, and the valleys of Acre for a door of hope, and she will respond there, as in the days of her youth, as in the days when she came up out of the land of Egypt. It will be in that day, says Yahweh, that you will no longer call me my husband, and no longer call me my master. For I will take away the names of the Baals out of her mouth, and they will no longer be mentioned by name. In that day I will make a covenant for them with the animals of the field, and with the birds of the sky, and with the creeping things of the ground. I will break the bow, the sword, and the battle out of the land, and will make them lie down safely. I will betroth you to me forever. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness, in justice, in loving kindness, and in compassion. I will even betroth you to me in faithfulness, and you shall know Yahweh. It will happen in that day that I will respond, says Yahweh. I will respond to the heavens, and they will respond to the earth. And the earth will respond to the grain, and the new wine, and the oil, and they will respond to Jezreel. I will sow her to me in the earth, and I will have mercy on her who had obtained mercy, and I will tell those who were not my people, You are my people, and they will say, You are my God. Yahweh said to me, Go again, love a woman loved by another, an adulteress, even as Yahweh loves the children of Israel, though they turn to other gods and love cakes of raisins. So I bought her for myself for 15 pieces of silver and a homer and half of barley. I said to her, You shall stay with me many days. You shall not play the prostitute, and you shall not be with any other man. I also will be so toward you. For the children of Israel shall live many days without kings, without a prince, without sacrifice, without sacred stone, and without ephod or idols. Afterward, the children of Israel shall return and seek Yahweh their God, and David their king, and shall come with trembling to Yahweh, and to his blessings in the last days. Hear Yahweh's word, you children of Israel, for Yahweh has a charge against the inhabitants of the land. Indeed, there is no truth nor goodness, nor knowledge in God in the land. There is cursing, lying, murder, stealing, and committing adultery. They break boundaries, and bloodshed causes bloodshed. Therefore the land will mourn, and everyone who dwells in it will waste away, with all living things in her, even the animals of the field and the birds of the sky. Yes, the fish of the sea also die. Yet let no man bring a charge, neither let any man accuse. For your people are like those who bring charges against a priest. You will stumble in the day, and the prophet will also stumble with you in the night, and I will destroy your mother. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I also will reject you, that you may be no priest to me. Because you have forgotten your God's law, I also will forget your children. As they were multiplied, so they sinned against me. I will change their glory into shame. They feed on the sin of my people, and set their heart on the iniquity. It will be like people, like priest, and I will punish them for their ways, and repay them for their deeds. They will eat and not have enough. They will play the prostitute and will not increase, because they have abandoned listening to Yahweh. Prostitution, wine, and new wine take away understanding. My people consult with their wooden idol, and answer to a stick of wood. Indeed, the spirit of prostitution has led them astray, and they have been unfaithful to their God. They sacrifice on the tops of their mountains, and burn incense on the hill under oaks, poplars, and terebinths, because its shade is good. Therefore, your daughters play the prostitute, and your brides commit adultery. I will not punish your daughters when they play the prostitute, nor your brides when they commit adultery, because the men consort with prostitutes, and they sacrifice with the shrine prostitutes. So the people without understanding will come to ruin. Though you, Israel, play the prostitute, yet don't let Judah offend, and don't come to Gilgal, neither go up to Beth-aven, nor swear, as Yahweh lives, for Israel has behaved extremely stubbornly, like a stubborn heifer. How then will Yahweh feed them like a lamb in a meadow? Ephraim is joined to idols, leave him alone. Their drink has become sour. They play the prostitute continually. Her rulers dearly love their shameful way. The wind has wrapped her in all its wings, and they shall be disappointed because of their sacrifices. Listen to this, you priests. Listen, house of Israel, and give ear to the house of the king. For the judgment is against you. For you have been a snare at Mizpah, and a net spread on Tabor. The rebels are deep in slaughter, but I discipline all of them. I know Ephraim, and Israel is not hidden from me. For now, Ephraim, you have played the prostitute. Israel is defiled. Their deeds won't allow them to turn to their God, for the spirit of prostitution is within them, and they don't know Yahweh. The pride of Israel testifies to his faith. Therefore, Israel and Ephraim will stumble in their iniquity. Judah also will stumble with them. They will go with their flocks and with their herds to seek Yahweh, but they won't find him. He has withdrawn himself from them. They are unfaithful to Yahweh, for they have borne illegitimate children. Now with the new moon will devour them with their field. Blow the cornet in Gibeah, and the trumpet in Ramah. Sound a battle cry at Bethaven, behind you, Benjamin. Ephraim will become a desolation in the day of rebuke. Among the tribes of Israel I have made known that which will surely be. The princes of Judah are like those who remove a landmark. I will pour out my wrath on them like water. Ephraim is oppressed. He is crushed in judgment, because he is intent in his pursuit of idols. Therefore I am to Ephraim like a moth, and to the house of Judah like rottenness. When Ephraim saw his sickness, and Judah his wound, then Ephraim went to Assyria, and sent to King Jareb. But he is not able to heal you, neither will he curse you of your wound. For I will be to Ephraim like a lion, and like a young lion to the house of Judah. I myself will tear in pieces and go away. I will carry off, and there will be no one to deliver. I will go and return to my place, until they acknowledge their offence and seek my face. In their affliction they will seek me earnestly. Come, let us return to Yahweh, for he has torn us to pieces, and he will heal us. He has injured us, and he will bind up our wounds. After 2 days he will revive us. On the 3rd day he will rise us up, and we will live before him. Let's acknowledge Yahweh. Let's press on to know Yahweh. As surely as the sun rises, Yahweh will appear. He will come to us like the rain, like the spring rain that waters the earth. Ephraim, what shall I do to you? Judah, what shall I do to you? For your love is like a morning cloud, and like the dew that disappears early. Therefore I have cut them to pieces with the prophets. I killed them with the words of my mouth. Your judgments are like a flash of lightning. For I desire mercy and not sacrifice, and the knowledge of God more than burnt offerings. But they, like Adam, have broken the covenant. They were unfaithful to me there. Gilead is a city of those who work iniquity. It is stained with blood. As gangs of robbers wait to ambush a man, so the company of priests murder on the path towards Shechem, committing shameful crimes. In the house of Israel I have seen a horrible thing. There is prostitution in Ephraim. Israel is defiled. Also, Judah, there is a harvest appointed for you, when I restore the fortunes of my people. When would I heal Israel? Then the iniquity of Ephraim is uncovered. Also the wickedness of Samaria, for they commit falsehood, and the thief enters in, and the gang of robbers ravages outside. They don't consider in their hearts that I remember all their wickedness. Now their deeds have engulfed them. They are before my face. They make the king glad with their wickedness, and the princes with their lies. They are all adulterers. They are burning like an oven that the baker stops stirring, from the kneading of the dough until it is leavened. On the day of our king, the princes made themselves sick with the heat of wine. He joined his hand with mockers, for they have prepared their heart like an oven, while they wait in night. Their anger smoulders all night. In the morning it burns as a flaming fire. They are all hot as an oven, and devour their judges. All their kings have fallen. There is no one among them who calls to me. Ephraim mixes himself among the nations. Ephraim is a pancake not turned over. Strangers have devoured his strength, and he doesn't realize it. Indeed, grey hairs are here and there on him, and he doesn't realize it. The pride of Israel testifies to his face, yet they haven't returned to Yahweh their God, nor sought him for all this. Ephraim is like an easily deceived dove without understanding. They call to Egypt, they go to Assyria. When they go, I will spread my net on them. I will bring them down like birds of the sky. I will chastise them as their congregation has heard. Woe to them, for they have wandered from me. Destruction to them, for they have trespassed against me. Though I would redeem them, yet they have spoken lies against me. They haven't cried to me with their heart, but they howl on their beds. They assemble themselves for grain and new wine. They turn away from me. Though I have taught and strengthened their arms, yet they plot evil against me. They return, but not to the Most High. They are like a faulty bow. Their princes will fall by the sword, for the rage of their tongue. This will be their derision in the land of Egypt. Put the trumpet to your lips. Something like an eagle is over Yahweh's house, because they have broken my covenant and rebelled against my law. They cry to me, My God, we, Israel, acknowledge you. Israel has cast off that which is good. The enemy will pursue him. They have set up kings, but not by me. They have made princes, and I didn't approve. Of their silver and their gold they have made themselves idols, that they may be cut off. Let Samaria throw out his calf idol. My anger burns against them. How long will it be until they are capable of purity? For this is even from Israel. The workman made it, and it is no God. Indeed, the calf of Samaria shall be broken in pieces, for they sow the wind, and they will reap the whirlwind. He has no standing grain. The stalk will yield no head. If it does yield, strangers will swallow it up. Israel is swallowed up. Now they are among the nations like a worthless thing, for they have gone up to Assyria, like a wild donkey wandering alone. Ephraim has hired lovers for himself, but although they sold themselves among the nations, I will now gather them. And they begin to waste away because of the oppression of the kings of mighty ones. Because Ephraim has multiplied altars for sinning, they become for him altars for sinning. I wrote for him the many things of my law, but they were regarded as a strange thing. As for the sacrifices of my offerings, they sacrifice meat and eat it, but Yahweh doesn't accept them. Now he will remember their iniquity and punish them for their sin. They will return to Egypt, for Israel has forgotten his Maker and built palaces, and Judah has multiplied fortified cities. But I will send a fire on his cities, and it will devour its fortresses. Don't rejoice, Israel, to jubilation like the nations, for you were unfaithful to your God. You love the wages of a prostitute at every green threshing floor. The threshing floor and the winepress won't feed them, and the new wine will fail her. They won't dwell in Yahweh's land, but Ephraim will return to Egypt, and they will eat unclean food in Assyria. They won't pour out wine offerings to Yahweh, neither will they be pleasing to him. Their sacrifices will be to them like the bread of mourners. All who eat of it will be polluted, for their bread will be for their appetite. It will not come into Yahweh's house. What will you do in the day of solemn assembly, and in the day of the feast of Yahweh? For behold, when they flee destruction, Egypt will gather them up. Memphis will bury them. Nettles will possess their pleasant things of silver. Thorns will be in their tents. The days of visitation have come. The days of reckoning have come. Israel will consider the prophet to be a fool, and the man who is inspired to be insane, because of the abundance of your sins, and because your hostility is great. A prophet watches over Ephraim with my guard. A fowler's snare is on all of his paths, and hostility in the house of his guard. They have deeply corrupted themselves, as in the days of Gibeah. He will remember their iniquity. He will punish them for their sins. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first ripe in the fig tree in its season. But they came to Baal Peor, and consecrated themselves to the shameful thing, and became abominable, like that which they loved. As for Ephraim, their glory will fly away like a bird. There will be no birth, no one with child, and no conception. Though they bring up their children, yet I will bereave them, so that not a man shall be left. Indeed, woe also to them when I depart from them. I have seen Ephraim like Tyre, planted in a pleasant place. But Ephraim will bring out his children to the murderer. Give them, Yahweh, what will you give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. All their wickedness is in Gilgal, for there I hated them. Because of the wickedness of their deeds I will drive them out of my house. I will love them no more. All their princes are rebels. Ephraim is struck, their root has dried up. They will bear no fruit, even though they give birth, yet I will kill the beloved ones of their womb. My God will cast them away, because they didn't listen to him, and they will be wanderers among the nations. Israel is a luxuriant vine that produces his fruit. According to the abundance of his fruit, he has multiplied his altars. As their land has prospered, they have adorned their sacred stones. Their heart is divided. Now they will be found guilty. He will demolish their altars. He will destroy their sacred stones. Surely now they will say, we have no king, for we don't fear Yahweh. And the king, what can he do for us? They make promises, swearing falsely in making covenants. Therefore, judgment springs up like poisonous weeds in the furrows of the field. For its people will mourn over it, along with its priests who rejoiced over it. For its glory, because it has departed from it. It also will be carried to Assyria for a present to a great king. Ephraim will receive shame, and Assyria and Israel will be ashamed of his own counsel. Samaria and her king float away like a twig on the water. The high place also of Avon, the sin of Israel, will be destroyed. The thorn and thistles will come up on the altar. They will tell of the mountains, cover us, and the hills fall on us. Israel, you have sinned from the days of Gibeah. There they remained. The battle against the children of iniquity doesn't overtake them in Gibeah. When it is my desire, I will chastise them, and the nations will be gathered against them. When they are bound to their two transgressions, Ephraim is a trained heifer that loves to thrash. So I will put a yoke on her beautiful neck. I will set a rider on Ephraim. Judah will plough his clods. Sow to yourselves in righteousness. Reap according to kindness. Break up your fallow ground, for it is time to see Yahweh, until he comes and rains righteousness on you. You have ploughed wickedness. You have reaped iniquity. You have eaten the fruit of your lies, for you trusted in your way, in the multitude of your mighty men. Therefore, a battle roar will arise among your people, and all your fortresses will be destroyed. Al-Shalman destroyed Beth Arbel in the day of battle. The mother was dashed in pieces with her children. So Bethel will do to you because of your great wickedness. At daybreak, the king of Israel will be destroyed. When Israel was a child, then I loved him, and called my son out of Egypt. They called to them, so that they went from them. They sacrificed to the Baals, and burned incense to engraved images. Yet I taught Ephraim to walk. I took them by their arms, but they didn't know that I had healed them. I drew them with cords of a man, with ties of love, and I was to them like those who lift up the yoke on their necks. And I bent down to him, and I fed him. They won't return into the land of Egypt, but the Assyrian will be their king, because they refused to repent. The sword will fall in their cities, and will destroy the bars of their gates, and will put an end to their plans. My people are determined to turn from me. Though they call to the Most High, he certainly won't exalt them. How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, Israel? How can I make you like Admah? How can I make you like Zeboim? My heart is turned within me. My compassion is aroused. I will not execute the fierceness of my anger. I will not return to destroy Ephraim. For I am God, and not man, the Holy One among you. I will not come in wrath. They will walk after Yahweh, who will roar like a lion. For he will roar, and the children will come trembling from the west. They will come trembling like a bird out of Egypt, and like a dove out of the land of Assyria. And I will settle them in their houses, says Yahweh. Ephraim surrounds me with falsehood, and the house of Israel with deceit. Judah still strays from God, and is unfaithful to the Holy One. Ephraim feeds on wind, and chases the east wind. He continually multiplies lies and desolation. They make a covenant with Assyria, and oil is carried into Egypt. Yahweh also has a controversy with Judah, and will punish Jacob according to his ways. According to his deeds, he will repay him. In the womb he took his brother by the heel, and in his manhood he contended with God. Indeed, he struggled with the angel and prevailed. He wept and made supplication to him. He found him at Bethel, and there he spoke with us. Even Yahweh, the God of armies, Yahweh is his name of renown. Therefore turn to your God. Keep justice and kindness, and wait continually for your God. A merchant has dishonest scales in his hand. He loves to defraud. Ephraim said, Surely I have become rich. I have found myself wealth. In all my wealth, they won't find me in any iniquity that is sin. But I am Yahweh your God from the land of Egypt. I will yet again make you dwell in tents as in the days of the solemn feast. I have also spoken to the prophets, and I have multiplied visions, and by the ministry of the prophets I have used parables. If Gilead is wicked, surely they are worthless. In Gilgal they sacrifice bulls. Indeed, their altars are like heaps in the furrows of the field. Jacob fled into the country of Aram. Israel served to get a wife. For a wife he tended flocks and herds. By a prophet Yahweh brought Israel up out of Egypt, and by a prophet he was preserved. Ephraim was bitterly provoked to anger. Therefore his blood will be left on him, and his Lord will repay his contempt. When Ephraim spoke, there was trembling. He exalted himself in Israel. But when he became guilty through Baal, he died. Now they sin more and more, and have made themselves molten images of their silver, even idols according to their own understanding, all of them the work of the craftsman. They say of them, they offer human sacrifice, and kiss the calves. Therefore they will be like the morning mist, like the dew that passes away early, like the chaff that is driven with the whirlwind out of the threshing floor, and like the smoke out of the chimney. Yet I am Yahweh your God from the land of Egypt, and you shall acknowledge no God but me, and besides me there is no Saviour. I knew you in the wilderness, in the land of great drought. According to their pasture, so were they filled. They were filled, and their heart was exalted. Therefore they have forgotten me. Therefore I am like a lion to them. Like a leopard I will lurk by the path. I will meet them like a bear that is bereaved of her cubs, and will tear the covering of their heart. There I will devour them like a lioness. The wild animal will tear them. You are destroyed, Israel, because you are against me, against your helper. Where is your king now, that he may save you in all your cities? And your judges, of whom you said, give me a king and princes. I have given you a king in my anger, and have taken him away in my wrath. The guilt of Ephraim is stored up. His sin is stored up. The sorrows of a travailing woman will come on him. He is an unwise son, for when it is time he doesn't come to the opening of the womb. I will ransom them from the power of Sheol. I will redeem them from death. Death, where are your plagues? Sheol, where is your destruction? Compassion will be hidden from my eyes, though he is fruitful among his brothers, an east wind will come, the breath of Yahweh coming up from the wilderness, and his spring will become dry, and his fountain will be dried up. He will plunder the storehouse of treasure. Samaria will bear her guilt, for she has rebelled against her God. They will fall by the sword. Their infants will be dashed in pieces, and their pregnant women will be ripped open. Israel, return to Yahweh your God, for you have fallen because of your sin. Take words with you, and return to Yahweh. Tell him, forgive all our sins, and accept that which is good. So we offer bulls as we vowed of our lips. Assyria can't save us. We won't ride on horses, neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, our gods, for in you the fatherless finds mercy. I will heal their waywardness. I will love them freely, for my anger is turned away from them. I will be like the dew to Israel. He will blossom like the lily, and send down his roots like Lebanon. His branches will spread, and his beauty will be like the olive tree, and his fragrance like Lebanon. Men will dwell in his shade, and blossom like the vine. Their fragrance will be like the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim, what have I to do any more with idols? I answer, and will take care of him. I am like a green cypress tree. From me your fruit is found. Who is wise that he may understand these things? Who is prudent that he may know them? For the ways of Yahweh are right, and the righteous walk in them, but the rebellious stumble.